Hey guys, this is DFD, aka Dark Frozen Death, back with another Kamihime project video. I meant to get this out sooner, but I kinda had a few issues, some of them actually being medical related, but those are pretty much fine now, so I'm actually trying to do this video, but this is going to talk more about some of the crossover stuff and the things going on in the game, not necessarily the stage itself, because honestly, when it comes to the crossover stages, not only do they seem easier than normal, but at the same time, the wiki doesn't really give that much info about this stuff, so I'm going to go over a few other things instead. First and foremost, I have to go into the mission tab because I've already done some of them, like the daily thing where you run an event 2 times, you get some extra materials for trades, but you get up to 30 free pulls just from doing the event missions enough times, like the event, and then you get an SSR guaranteed. So at least try to run that event 30 times clear, and you can do it on any difficulty. Also, doing some raid shares and whatnot will get you some weapons and materials, but those are the weapons that you get from ultimate raids. Consider it basically guaranteed drops of, like, basically, I think all of them from the ultimate raids, or I think it was only 6 though. Like all elements, but only like 1 each. I think it was the assault defender one, but basically some free stuff for newer players if you want to catch up on that one. Me, I'm just going to use them for like shard fodder. Also, the gacha has 10 free pulls every day. The collab characters are indeed in there. The problem is that you won't have a boosted rate for them. If you want the boosted rate, go to their banner that's right up under it. And I've already pulled quite a few times, as you can see. But the next thing I need to really go into, and I actually need to go and look at the collab characters for that one. Are they good? Short answer, yes. Long answer, it still depends on what you want to do with your teams. And then on top of that too, they aren't exactly what you would say best of the best in their roles, but they are pretty good. Thing is though, since this is a collab, very good chance they're not showing up again, so you probably need to pull right now. If you're unsure, you might as well pull anyway. Everything else comes back. Collab characters may not. So keep that in mind. But going into what their weapons do too, because you can final break these. If you want an okay critical weapon for fire, you may want to try and pull for this one. Critical is that, well, it says keen for the global side, but critical is a weapon where you basically have a chance of getting like an extra damage multiplier, and that one works regardless of what you're fighting. It's not like Stinger where you have to be elemental advantage. So there's that. You can even put this on any sort of soul that does uses swords, and they can distort. So you may or may not want to pull for this. It all depends. Then there's this weapon from the wind one. I would say it's a decent weapon if you do happen to get her. So it's worth final break because it's a large vigor, and then you also get an ascension with it. Any ascension, regardless of size, is good if it can hit the second final break. So if you can get it to 5 stars, that ascension's already good. So this said, this might actually cover a few of the weapons you may get from the malicious raids right there. So that said, it works, and then you have a stackable defense up depending on how fast you can burst with wind. Wind may have some decent burst speed, but it's not perfect, really. It's just something that kind of helps, but you more want it for the vigor. The vigor weapons are pretty good when they're large. Now as for the characters themselves, this one's a distortion-based character. Getting this right off the bat, the first thing you're going to notice is that she gives extra critical multiplier to every single one of your characters, and extra combo rate to every single one of your characters when the enemy rages, or if they're distorted. The special thing about her combo rate boost though is the fact that it activates even if she's in sub, so you get an increased combo rate every time an enemy's raging just from having her on the team. Speaking of which, her second ability is where it really shines with a lot of her kit, and it even ties into her burst as well. When she lands this distort, and it can work on regardless of element too, so don't expect a reduced rate if you happen to use her on, say, a water or thunder or even phantom enemy. But the thing with distort, it makes all raging effects happen regardless of the mode. Which means if you have boosted damage during raging or boosted combo rate during raging, maybe you got boosted defense or critical chance against raging enemies or something like that, all of that works. All of it works whenever an enemy is distorted. That's the big thing about this. And this is Fire's second distortion character because Akala can do it too. But Akala can only do it to win enemies. If she doesn't do it to win, I don't even think it lands. But that's the big thing about this. That even ties into her third ability where she gives a massive boost to herself whenever enemies are raging. This is what you would probably call a quote-unquote punish frame. And it massively spikes the damage that you do. The thing with punish frame is the fact that it also kind of works as a technical boost too. So I do believe that if you have like the maximum technical multiplier for some reason or another, this won't do anything for normal attacks. But it will do something for bursts and the abilities. Speaking of which, her ability, every 6 turns she can basically do a 9 times fire damage nuke towards random enemies. It starts off at a 180,000 soft cap. But if they are raging or distorted, it's double that. So it can deal a very sizable amount of damage. She's a pretty strong ability nuker. I'd honestly say it's comparable to a permanent Hime called a Moner. Only she can actually do it more often because a Moner is RNG based if she can like super nuke all that often. But this is actually a pretty good skill if you ask me. So if you do have some sort of elaborate boosting or whatever, even combining it with the raging nukes and all that too, or the distortion nukes, this can do quite a bit of damage. She's actually a pretty solid character. And then whenever she bursts, the distortion gets extended. So if you happen to have her distortion ready and her burst ready, land the distortion, use her burst, you get more turns. And you get more uptime on it. If you can somehow get her to burst like every 2 turns, that distortion should never run out. But good luck with that on Fire. Their burst fill rate isn't all that great. Now, going into the other character, who I believe is honestly even better. She is a very good healer that is hard to kill and keeps the team alive pretty well. Now, again, you need to burst with her too in order to try and maintain the most of her kit because she gets 2 spiritual power every time she bursts. Spiritual power is how you buff all her skills. They're still good without the spiritual power, but they're way better when you do have enough spiritual power. She also gains spiritual power every single turn she attacks with normal attacks. Or with a burst, basically. So basically every turn. If she bursts or does a triple attack, she gains 2 spiritual power. Otherwise, she gains 1. And then on top of that, that's what the second passive is. But then on top of that, the more spiritual power she has, and I think she holds up to 5. But the more spiritual power she has, the better her ascension is. So that increases her heal. As for the details of her abilities, this is a big thing on the first ability. For 2 turns, and every 6 turns, she will hit every single enemy, and the damage they deal is reduced by 20%. It's 25% when you, of course, level her up and get her skills boosted. But if you use 3 spiritual power, that doubles the effect. What that means is you will flat out take half of the resulting damage from enemies under this effect. And it does indeed stack with damage cut and all that too, because this is basically damage minus, which is like a final damage decrease that enemies get. So, just off the top of my head, if you happen to max out the attack down and then use this, you're already taking 1/4 of the damage you normally would. Before you even get into like damage cuts, before you get into like defense boosts, barriers, and all that sort of stuff. Speaking of which, she also gives a barrier and a defense boost to all allies. Now, the effects of this is basically like a 2000 barrier. The defense boost is 15%, but If you happen to have enough spiritual power for it, and this also consumes 3. The first 2 abilities consume 3 spiritual power. But you have enough spiritual power for this. This doubles it, so it becomes a 30% attack and defense increase, and a 4,000 barrier for the defensive wall. As for vigor, it starts at 20%, so it's a 40% vigor buff to the whole team when you have enough spiritual power. So keep your spirit power up. Those 2 abilities combined are already very, very good. Now the one that's kind of cheap on the spiritual power is actually pretty good too, because the heal isn't that strong because it's frequent. Like every 4 turns, you can basically heal everybody by 1200 HP. So with more ascension and spiritual power and all that, you can get it up to 3600 every 4 turns. What makes this good though, if you have 1 spiritual power, this will put an automatic revive on herself, so she will auto revive. And basically you can use it every 4 turns, and the auto revive stays every 4 turns. So she can have basically permanent auto revive as long as she doesn't die. That makes her pretty hard to kill. So not only is she a decent healer that can frequently heal, but she comes with some pretty strong buffs and a very powerful debuff. In my opinion, she's actually one of the best wind healers. But again, it all depends on who you have too, because there's still other good ones. Like if you happen to have the wind Aphrodite, she's good. If you happen to have, say, even just Frigg, because especially when Frigg's awakened, she's very, very good. But Izuna can kind of complement them, or she can just replace them if you want. It all depends. I know you're definitely going to want her for tower. The upper floors of tower are pretty brutal if you're not careful. So my 2 previous tower videos should show that, because I've never seen 425 personally already. I've only gotten 24. But my personal opinion, you should pull for these characters because they're very, very good, despite not even being what some people would consider quote-unquote top tier. And the thing with tiers in this is the fact that it still would be based on what the characters do and all that. Like, Asuka can be good for elaborate damage and even rage punishing, but she's probably not too good for normal attacks outside the combo rate boost. Meanwhile, Izuna is very, very good for healing and defense, but offense-wise, she only has a vigor buff, which is good, but it's not enough to really like spike the entire team as much as some other like offensive buffers. So that said, it all depends on whether you want them or not. They will not have a rerun after this, as far as I know, because there hasn't been a confirmed one so far since the Japanese side. So my suggestion is that you pull for these 2. They are very good. But if you don't happen to get them, don't worry. There's still like other ways around what they do, because there's still some other good elaborate nukers and some distortion shenanigans for fire, and then for wind, there's still other solid options too. I do believe Wind Celine also carries the same damage reduction thing. So combine that with Izuna, that's also a very good combo. But going into the event itself too, I also need to go cover some of the stuff you get from it. And I've already done some runs, but basically this Adon, I do believe she's usable on turn 1. I haven't gotten her just yet. I can get her on camera just to show it, but her main thing is that when you max her out, every element gets 30% elemental attack, but also they get 30% burst streak increase. But it's for the damage, not the soft cap. Thing with that is the fact that burst streak used to be a good thing to have, but once they added a soft cap to it, it just completely neutered burst streak increases. So you pretty much don't want her for that. You want her for like maybe a support role, because she'll give everybody some burst gauge. If you max her out and have Izuna or Asuka, they get immediate full burst, which is going to help both of their kits. Like, they get immediate full burst gauge for that. But the weapons, standard stuff for the weapons. If you happen to put this weapon on the soul, this hammer, I don't even know how it's a hammer, not an arcane, but you put this on the soul, they get a combo rate boost every time they burst. That's actually not bad. But the main thing is the fact that it's large defender and medium assault. which instantly makes it better than one of the old weapons. So if you're doing ultimate raids and happen to have a large defender from it, you may want to replace it with this weapon. As for the second weapon, I can also kind of recommend it, but you're going to get rid of this faster than the other one, because this weapon can't final break and it can't go past like 3 stars. It can attack debuff enemies whenever the soul bursts with this weapon, so that's also an interesting strategy you could probably do when you're in the weaker portions of the game. But it does give large vigor, and it also gives ascension, and it's one of the earliest access to that type of stuff until you can get to Guardian Raid. So it may help you out for that. So that's something to know. As for everything else, standard stuff applies. Get your tickets, definitely try to get some of these orbs, these skill orbs, because they can help you out quite a bit. Soul points if you need them. Definitely get the magic jewels, and I say use your magic jewels on that gacha. I'm going to do that. That's my top priority right now. Get cores, get the Orichalicons, and all these, I need more Dragonic Eye Shards, honestly, because my Dragonic Eye is pretty low. The SSR guarantee ticket again, if you get 10 of those, you get 2 like per advent and raid event basically. But last thing I could basically show on camera is this run I haven't done of Ragnarok Plus. Recommended element is fire, because all the enemies are wind, but you can basically use anybody you want. Just know that if you have Stinger like I do for my white team, then it won't activate. So you got to be careful with that. And I also don't see any Guardian add-ons or Catastrophe add-ons for this run, so my damage is actually going to be lower. I calculated it, and it turns out that going Guardian plus Catastrophe is the most damage for me. But anyways, I could still basically just do some of this stuff here. Now, when it comes to the first enemies, I tend to just, like, nuke them. If you have somebody that instant fill burst gauge, then that's probably a good time to use it. Just saying that right there. I'll save that other one for the next turn. But generally, I kill that in 1 turn off of that. Second wave for Ragnarok Plus always has an enemy that has the least amount of HP, so you can pretty much just nuke it down pretty fast. But I'm going to turn my burst off for this. And I'm going to feed it this, and I'm going to run a combo rate increase. This thing should definitely die in 1 turn. Now, this third enemy is actually the one that got the most HP outside of the boss, so that said, you may end up doing some ability damage just to knock it down. But, depending on my combo rate, I could probably just finish this thing off. Yep, and I've done that. And then I tend to just save a full burst for this. So, okay, she missed, but it don't matter. Because, on a hit with, Uriel, still 50% defense down. I just don't have the 70. But these guys should just one-shot anyway. Because they only has, like, about 10 or 11 million, maybe 12 million. And I didn't even use the on-a-hit burst. So I basically killed her without even a full burst. Maybe like 4 and not even a burst streak. But you see what I mean about this. It's, like, kind of easy to do all this stuff once you're leveled up. And you can basically do all that by the time you have a Guardian grid. I have better than that. So, that said, it's like ridiculously easy for that type of stuff. Because, even just to show off this next one, this is what happens when you have Medea. Oh, and I also found this too. So, this is going to be even more disturbingly OP. But, I'm not even going to use any buffs. I'm going to just let this run on just Medea ability. She already did 1.5 mil normally. She's now doing 2.2 because of the limited Guardian. Medea is still pretty solid for grinding content. It's just the fact that 6th anniversary makes it more profitable to use Paracelsus, because Paracelsus is usable everywhere and does more damage than Medea. But basically, that's it. That's literally it. Once you unlock Medea, or I'd even say Paracelsus, you basically just get freebies on event runs. So that said, that's why I don't really do too much more info on these type of like things, because they're easy. They're ridiculously easy. Like that was Ragnarok and Ragnarok Plus within minutes. But anyway, and I also got a decent amount of these to trade too, but I need, I think, 300 for the jewels. But anyways, that's it. And I'm going to go back to grinding this because I'm also trying to get some of the free pools and all that too. They're pretty good. I've already got an SSR from a free pool, so there's that. But anyways, that's all for this. More of this will come soon because I do believe there's another event that's going to end up running alongside of this that I'll probably have to cover. So that said, you'll see a video about that when that happens. But anyways, that's all for now, guys. More will come soon, and take care.